How do you look at this offseason, given what we just looked at, Tom?
Yeah, it surprised me because we had a lot of activity early and a lot of money was spent, but not necessarily, as we saw in those numbers, with an increase in multi-year deals. Certainly not where we were 8 years ago. So the top of the market is really good. Middle of the market is soft.
Yeah, if you're a stud like yourself, John Smoltz, yeah, you're probably getting a multi-year deal.
Well, the gap's huge between the elite pitcher and the guy who's breaking in, or the elite player and everyday player. I've always been a fan of betting on yourself, right? But there is some value in being able to get that sense of security that makes sense. I think with everything that we've learned over the last 3 or 4 years, if you're not creative or you're not thinking along the lines that it's always going to be, you're going to be left behind. And you're going to have to reprove yourself every single year. Now, the one guy that is out there on Twitter and talks a lot about, I don't mind pitching the rest of my career on one-year contracts, and Mr. Bauer, hey, if that's what you're going to do, I applaud you. Every year is going to be your greatest year. And I think what we've seen sometimes is a misread or is such an importance on 29 years old versus 30. That never used to be. That never used to be that was prime. You're in your prime, and no longer do we look at a number. It's more of a detriment now on how and when you sign, at what age, to where you get that multi-year deal.
Braves Hall of Famer, let's talk about the Atlanta Braves, because they've signed some one-year deals this offseason. Tom Verducci, Cole Hamels is where we'll begin.
Yeah, when you look at guys who sign these so-called pillow contracts, one-year deals, where's the upside? For me, Hamels is a guy, if you watched him pitch early last season, first half of the season, he was the best pitcher in the Cubs rotation. Then he pulled an oblique in June. Completely different pitcher once he got back. So I look at a guy, look at the difference in the numbers. I mean, it's staggering. Now, he still wound up punching out over 9 per 9 innings. So the swing and miss was there. The walk rate was up. But again, different pitcher at the oblique. He came back from it, but was not the same. If I'm the Braves, I'm betting on a veteran guy who showed me when he was healthy, fully healthy, that his stuff was there.
Love it?
I love it from this standpoint. I don't think that $18 million for Cole Hamels would fit every team, right? But I think for the Atlanta Braves, the reason it fits, if you want to kind of look at what the chunk of that money will get for 1 year, I think these young players, these young left-handers, are going to get the experience and the tutoring that they're hoping for the Atlanta Braves. You've got Max Fried, you've got
Soroka.
Soroka's right-handed, but you're going to get the big lefty that's in the pen. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Newcomb.
You got 2 left-handers that are going to pick his brain. I know they'll pick his brain. So the leadership value of that contract for 1 year for that amount of money is not going to be, for me, totally tied to his performance, although that's what they want. They want his performance. They're going to get so much more out of that. And I think that's where I look into that kind of window of he's going to parlay so much to these young pitchers who haven't had that pitcher in their organization for a while to pick their brain and learn from.
Yeah, left-handed or right-handed. And, for Hamels, he had the oblique last year, but hasn't had an arm injury that sent him to the IL since 2014. Another pitcher, Rick Porcello. Everyone figured, Tom, that this was the type of deal he would sign.
Well, he had multi-year deals on the table. Toronto wanted to give him 3 years. He said no. He said really was big on the Mets and the plan that they gave him. I'm big on guys leaving the American League, going to the National League later in their careers. Stuff-wise, nothing wrong with Rick Porcello. I love this. Look at the names on this list. This is pitching ahead of the count. Rick Porcello gets in front of hitters as well as anybody in baseball. The problem? His fastball got hit when he was ahead of the count on hitters. Big difference between 18 and 19. Just too many mistakes with the fastball. Same command wasn't there. The Mets have talked to him about using his stuff now more in vertical planes than horizontal planes. More four-seam fastball, changeup, curveball, moving the hitter's eyes up and down rather than in and out. John, I think his stuff is there. I think he's going to have a really good year. It's how he uses his stuff. And being in a new place, especially National League, works in his favor.
I agree. I think, and I said it 6 years ago or 5 years ago, whenever they signed him to the long-term contract, he was coming from Detroit. And this guy, to me, I'm guessing here, has lost his way a little bit. So confused with the information, so much trying to do so many things. Of course, he won a Cy Young, and then coming off of that. One thing I know about him is he's durable. He's going to give you starts, and he's going to do exactly what Tom said: throw strikes. But if I was a teammate, I would encourage him to get back to the strengths he feels are going to get him back into that mode. He had a heavy sinker, and I know that's a term going away out of the game today. But I would like to see him at least come up with a game plan with not 7 options, get down to 3 options, and really start tunneling back into the success that he once had. And by the way, that ballpark's going to help him too because it's a little bit bigger.
One more arm to talk about, one who 2 years ago, Tom, you couldn't touch Blake Treinen and had a rough 2019, which is why he had to settle for a 1-year, $10 million deal.
Yeah, 1 year, but I like this bet for the LA Dodgers. Now, the Oakland A's had to non-tender him because they weren't sure he was going to be their closer. Probably not with Hendricks there. That's a big ticket for them to pay at that money for a guy not going to close. Dodgers can handle it. Here's the difference. Obviously, the sinker, that power sinker, is his big pitch. He lost a tick on it. There's no question about it. Slugging percentage went way up. Here's the heat map on it. He just didn't have the same command with it in 19 that he had in 18. It's been a little bit of a fickle pitch for him throughout his whole career. He's had moments where he's been, as you saw 2 years ago, almost unhittable. At times last year, he's really scuffled with command with it. So, again, new place to pitch in L.A. He doesn't have to be the closer there, obviously. I think the arm is still there. Had a couple of injuries last year, shoulder and the back, but I think the upside here is good. I love this signing.
I think what the Dodgers do, and they're in position to do it, they make moves that are going to look like one of the greatest moves in the world, or they can sustain it not working out as well as they thought because of their ability to make these kind of, I call them teeter-totter moves. This guy's got a great arm. This guy's usage last year, I didn't really check, but early on seemed like it was super high, used a lot because the A's had a struggling with their rotation. So I think the reset button and the National League and his ability to come in, I think it's a great sign.
ERA went from sub-1 to north of 5. I think a lot of folks are betting on Blake Treinen being closer to the 2018 version of himself.